Welcome to Music with Mrs. Habib. That was our hello song. I hope you sang along with me. Just in case you didn't, let's try that one more time. And notice I'm not playing an ukulele today. I'm playing the flute. Yeah, so the flute is a woodwind instrument, and we're going to be talking about some instruments from the woodwind family today. The flute is actually the oldest member of the woodwind family. The flute has been around for 40,000 years. Yeah, not 4 years, not 40 years, 40,000 years. That's a long time. That's before the ancient Egyptian pyramids. That's before the Great Wall of China. That's before the great Mayan temples. Isn't that crazy? This flute has been around for 40,000 years. So how do we make a sound on the flute? And this is just one version of the flute. There are other versions of the flutes, which we will get to look at in a moment. But for now, we're talking about the main flute that you might see at school. Somebody at school might be playing this flute. So notice there's a hole here. So the way we make a sound on the flute is we blow air across the hole, not into the hole. If I were to put my mouth on the hole, that's all the sound you would get. And I also don't want my mouth to not be touching it. If my mouth is far away, yeah, you could blow air into it, but it doesn't make a good sound. So you actually have to rest your lips gently right here and blow air across. See? And here's a side version. So that's how you make the basic sound on the flute. Now here's how you change sounds. You change pitch. You change your fingers. So I'm going to play just a little bit, and I want you to watch my mouth and my fingers. So that is a little bit of the flute. All right, so I have a bunch of different types of flutes to show you. These are all parts of the flute family. Next week, we'll be learning about other woodwind instruments, but today is about the flute. So this is a Native American flute. As you can see, it's hollow. That means there's nothing inside. It's made out of wood, and this actually helps produce the sound, this section here. And you see it also has holes on it that get covered to change the pitch. Now this particular flute is difficult for me. It might also be difficult for you just because the holes are a little big for my hands, but I'm going to do my best, okay? See, that's hard for me to get a sound out, but I can take my fingers off and just go. It has a very nice, calm, comforting sound. I really like this flute when it's played. The next flute I'm going to show you is technically something called a recorder, and it actually has some similarities. Do you see that? Similarities to the Native American flute. Now this is an older flute. This was more modern, but it's still old to us today. This type of recorder would have been around maybe the 1700s, I want to say. And I'm going to play just a little bit for you. Something that's odd about this one is that the finger holes are not all together. They're like not in a straight line. And it has a key. So notice it has a key, sort of like my other flute that I showed you before has. Pretty interesting stuff. All right, I'm going to show you a modern recorder. So these are ones that you will learn how to play when you're in 4th grade someday. It looks like this. Pretty similar, right? The only thing that's changed is this one doesn't have a key and it's a little smaller. This is what this recorder sounds like. I'm going to play a song for you. So just like the other one, you move your fingers to change the sound like that. But instead of the modern flute where you blow across, that wouldn't quite work with this. You have to actually put your mouth on this and play it like that. I have 2 flutes for you that do have an air hole that's played the same way as the modern flute. One of them is a glass flute. So flutes can be made out of all kinds of different materials. They are part of the woodwind family because they started out all being made out of wood like this one. But you can make a flute out of other objects as well. It just has to be hollow inside. So that's why we have a glass flute. This one here is made out of plastic. My flute that you saw me play earlier was made out of silver. And we're also going to see one more instrument that's part metal as well. Here's a little bit of the glass flute. So this one's a little tricky to play. It's tricky for me. I'm not quite used to it yet. It's a little new for me. But same concept. You blow air over the hole and you cover different holes to change the sound. Something that's funny about this one, do you notice what happened when I started to breathe my air through? It fogged up, just like a foggy window. You know, if it's cold outside, like it might be today, you can go on a window and it fogs up with your breath. Same thing happens to this flute. Watch. Look at that. Pretty funny, huh? All right, my last member of the flute family I have to show is teeny tiny. You remember what the flute looked like, don't you? Well, here is a piccolo. And the piccolo is almost exactly the same as my large flute, the first instrument you saw today. But this one is, of course, much smaller, and it has some black on it. So this black is actually made out of wood. So piccolos can be made out of metal and wood, or just metal, or just wood. Some of them are even made out of plastic, but those ones aren't as nice. So this one is pretty good because it's made out of metal and wood. Let's hear a little bit of the piccolo. Have you heard that before? It's from SpongeBob. Would you like to hear it again? Here we go. Now, because the piccolo is much smaller, I have to make my mouth really tight. The other flute, I had a very relaxed kind of face to get that air through my instrument. But on the piccolo, I have to tighten my face up to make it fit this tiny little instrument. This instrument actually has a very famous solo in a song called The Stars and Stripes Forever. It goes like this. I'll just play part of it. Maybe I won't because I forgot it. That's okay. Well, that's why you need to practice, boys and girls. But piccolo is very high pitched, very loud. I try not to play it too high in the morning because my neighbors probably won't like that. I also try not to play it too late at night because my neighbors also might not like that. So if you do decide to play the piccolo someday, you might want to be mindful of your neighbors. All right, everybody, that means it's time for us to sing our goodbye song. This is the end of our Flute Family video. I hope you enjoyed learning about flutes and seeing the different kinds that are available that you might see in your life. And next week, we'll be learning about reed instruments like the clarinet and the saxophone, the oboe, and the bassoon. So make sure you're here next week as well. We'll learn about that reed family. How about we go ahead and sing our goodbye song, and I'm going to play my part on the recorder. So I will play my part, the goodbye, goodbye class, and then you're going to sing goodbye, Mrs. Habib. I will play I will see you next week, and you'll sing we will see you next week. Okay, let's try it. Goodbye, Mrs. Habib. We will see you next week. All right, goodbye, everyone.